Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bianca MacPherson's Closing Artist in Residence talk. I'm Maxwell Henderson, the studio manager at the American Museum of Ceramic Art in Southern California. AMOCA champions the art, history, creation, and technology of ceramics through exhibitions, collections, outreach, and studio programming. Today's artist talk focuses on the work of Bianca MacPherson, who began her long-term residency here at AMOCA in August of 2025. AMOCA's Artist in Residence program, which was established in 2012, is one of the few long-term fellowship opportunities for ceramic artists on the West Coast. Our residency program, which provides artists an opportunity to produce or develop a new body of work, is funded through generous support from Julianne and David Armstrong, Laguna Clay, and the Wingate Foundation. And the next call for residency applications will be in January of 2027. So today, Bianca will share about her practice, her experience during her time here at AMOCA, and future directions as artist in residence at AMOCA. So now I'm excited to tell you a little bit about Bianca. So Bianca MacPherson's work solidifies the psychological unseen. Drawing from complexities of American history and personal experience, her forms instigate dialogues around identity, race, and perception, which forcefully presses us to confront the tension between what is seen and what is assumed through abstraction. Originally from Buffalo, New York, her work has been exhibited nationally. MacPherson received her MFA from Pennsylvania State University and her BFA from Buffalo State University, and she has participated in residencies at Penland School of Craft, Haystack Mountain School of Craft, and Watershed Center for Ceramic Arts. MacPherson has been in residence at AMOCA from August 2025 to July 2026. So, before Bianca starts her presentation, I want to remind everyone that this talk is being recorded and there will be an opportunity for Q&A after the presentation. So now I will turn the presentation over to Bianca.
Hey guys, thank you so much, Max. I'm so excited. My residency has been wonderful, and we'll talk more. We'll have a lot of time to talk about it. But I just want to thank AMOCA, the donors, Laguna, just a generous community for just embracing me and giving me such a great opportunity that's really just been life-changing for me. So I have nothing but big hearts, and yeah, I don't want to start crying already. So we're gonna start that. But I'm gonna share my screen. So let's see. Awesome. So I started my residency back in August 2025. Sort of graduated grad school at Penn State in May, and then did a summer of like workshops, and then straight to AMOCA, long road trip. And since then, it's been pretty such a wild ride. You don't think about it when it's happening, but so much happens within 1 year, and yeah, I can't really believe all the things that have happened since I last sat here. So this artist talk is going to be a combination of sort of me talking about my practice, but more so like what has happened this whole year, because I feel like that could be that's pretty useful for sort of other artists in residence to know all the things that can happen in 1 year, but also just so we can have time to reminisce on the things that are most important to me moving forward. So this, okay. So when I got here in August, I sort of always think about like traditional pottery, of course. That's how we all, maybe more so me, but the gateway drug to sculptural work, and working in a smaller, sort of thinking about forms in a small scale. Always I start with um, working in cups or off the wheel and sort of like hybriding those processes. So it gives me sort of like a sketch to work off of, like get the juices flowing. So I started out getting here and I went straight into like 3 markets, which I thought was going to be so easy. And it turned out to be like a lot of work. Hindsight's 2020, but I'm extremely grateful that I did those, because I sort of understood like I want to understand wherever community I'm working in, I want to know the people around me. So this kind of also gave me like this kind of gave me a little bit of like learning different areas in California since they were held in different spots. Um, so yeah, just my friends showing up for me, George and Christy and Pam, and Max, of course, but just getting to know everybody was really fun. So another thing that we talked about last time in our my previous artist talk was my relationship to research and my work. So my proposal for working at AMOCA was also working in conjunction with UCLA through the Miriam Matthews Photographic Archive. Um, so when I think about working in archival processes, which is sort of what I did in grad school, and that's like kind of what got the juices flowing. I don't necessarily start with something in mind. I kind of go in not so much blind. There are like key points that I'm interested in, but working in the Miriam Matthews photographic collection, it's a 4,600 black and white photographs, negatives, and documents, and it's all about documenting Black California, right? And uh, people of color in California. So that archive is pretty broad. And while I was working in that archive, I discovered a lot of different things, a lot of different things about how archives are like archived in particular. And for me, what struck out, because there were a couple families I was interested in learning about, and I did learn about them, but a learning about them, and then I just also found a lot of unidentified sitters in the archive, which made me question like like our historical memory as Americans, but also how far can we go to find a truth, or how do we find how do we find the unknown, or like being okay with not knowing and that being part of the history of America. So I started to sort of, as I was going through these archives, I started to find these unknown sitters like this right here. Uh, this was an unknown sitter. This young lady, I have nothing about her in the archive. I sort of tried to find some census records, but there wasn't much information, and I just kept finding these. So a part of my process is mirroring both the archive itself, but also then mirroring the form. So I'm just showing you a little bit of what happens. I will digitally scan the photos. Um, like I'll digitally scan the photo with a camera. Of course, in the archive, you have to be extremely careful and gentle with things. So, and then I will take it into digital process in Photoshop, and I will make it a vector so then I can really clearly sort of see what shapes are sort of coming out to me. And this Rorschaching process for me, I'm administering the test to me, but also thinking about who this person might be and how I can sort of honor them and give them a sort of different uh I don't know, life. So this piece that I was working on, it was about the mother. So of course I sort of tried to make this form like a bit more guarded, and like someone or something like a guardian that was protecting something, which would have been her baby. So that's one piece that I started to work on. And I should say during this time, right after the markets had completed, Beth Ann and the IMOCA team pulled all of the artists and residents into the office and offered us a show. So it was like time to get to work. So I guess I should put that caveat in there. So I started to make work at the same time traveling to UCLA back and forth. So crazy, crazy time. So this is another piece. Uh, this is about Lily DeGarrett. She married the first Black dentist in the or in California. And what's interesting to me about this family was the fact that they were contributing to Black life in California. They were a family of doctors that had, I think, migrated from Mississippi, I'm pretty sure. And then what had happened was they were being tormented. Of course, I think somebody that had found reports that somebody drove a car into their house and they were being tormented. So I just started to think about this picture, of course, and thinking about the idea of picking from leisure and picking for dreams. And I started to think about different ideas around giving so much of yourself to a place and them still tormenting you. And I just thought about how I could maybe make these forms about these families and the wishes that could happen. So we'll see the final pieces later on, but I'm just showing you what I was working on at that time. Another one, so this is the great great grandchildren of that same family, and a lot of them, like racial multiplicity is a concept I think about, of course, because of my own identity, but how we grow up generally generationally in America. So just thinking about actually how much mixing there is really interesting to me, and finding these little baby grandchildren of them was exciting. And then obviously Rorschaching the archive itself led to more of me thinking about these guardians. So the title of this show that we had at AMOCA was called Compulsion. And I just was really excited to make a set of guardians for this archive and Black Californians, and sort of just thinking about how can we guard the things that are precious to us in history without maybe understanding the entire narrative. So yeah, Compulsion. It was myself, Christy, Max, and Yoon. We were the current artists in residence at the time. So we were all working. So all this stuff is happening at the same time pretty much. And Compulsion's happening, and we're excited, and such a great time. So these are the finished forms. And for the idea of my section, because the show was split up into fours, my section, I really wanted to sort of recreate me going into the archive and working with the light boxes and things like that. So um, let's see. There's more. This is like a very large piece that I had made. But Beth Ann was like, we can't paint the whole thing black because I'm always interested in inverting a traditional white gallery space. But I just wanted to darken the space. So it was a little bit dark, but kind of take you into this zone of kind of like memory, kind of subdued place that you could go. And then I had light boxes that had the archive on the wall with the pieces. So you could sort of see where I was drawing the like inspiration from, but also like looking back and then looking at the form, kind of questioning what you're seeing, and then also seeing what I'm seeing. And most of the time when tours would come through, or I would ask, like, what are you guys seeing? Like, what are you seeing? So a lot of was shared, but then there was a lot of things that came about that were interesting that I didn't even pick up on. Um, so that is a little bit about compulsion. So at the same time, the compulsion is also happening. My friend Max and I, we find out that we're going to be NCECA emerging artists. So just when we think like, okay, well, we have like one big thing that we're working on, another one sort of comes and swoops us up, but we can't tell anybody. So we're just trying to sort of work away, and then, we're still working, you know. So at this point in my residency, we're all going a little cuckoo crazy because it's like nonstop. And, of course, I got a job. So I was working at Scripps as a studio tech. I was teaching here my entire time I have been here. I've been teaching. Um, so it was like a lot happening. This year really flew by. Um, so these are some of the works from NCECA, which are like riffs off of what I had been working on at with the Miriam Matthews collection, but I started to become more interested in the negative space. So the shadow that would have been cast would be the positive, and then the negative is what I'm sculpting. So that was a whole thing that I'm still actually working on now in my current work that I'm working on, but um, these are some of the pieces in process. And at that same time, I'm also involved with a organization called Critical Mixed Race Studies Association. And this year, their event or their big conference, it's sort of like NCECA, but it was held at UCLA. So my friend my good friend Erica and Erica Port, we were selected to speak, which was really great for us to see because we were going to like talks and things like before ours, then we got to ours, and it was just such an exciting time for us to sort of see, because we went to grad school together. So talking about critical mixed race studies in grad school to sort of like an audience who didn't maybe wasn't receptive all the time to those ideas. And then coming here, it felt kind of like a warm hug. And then I was really excited because I wanted to get involved with the organization, and I end up being involved like closing to the year. Um, we'll talk about that later, but so this is also happening at the same time. Lots of preparing. So these are some of the finished and Sika pieces. The titles sort of go along with all the birds that I was also seeing during this time. So a little bit of my, a little bit of spirituality, but owls were showing up in my like waking life, peacocks, bats. So these pieces sort of take on this next, and I like hide them in the pieces some places. So they sort of take on this like skeletal bony bird, but all sort of also thinking about memory and sort of archives, but sort of also the psychological, like what we're thinking about in history. Um, okay, so then NCECA happens. Super, super crazy time. I it was a sort of a blur, but I was excited to be there. You think when you get it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, but it's actually a lot of work. And you have to do two artist talks, a panel, and you really see all your friends, and you're like, I want to be with them. But of course, you're excited to be speaking, but it was really a dream come true, and so much fun. This is a little bit of me and Max, and also just community showing up for me. Uh, Christy and my parents, my hometown girls, in the corner on the bottom, in the middle here. Like great, can't see it, but like my whole undergrad, like my mentor came. I had to make her proud, of course, but just everybody showing up for me. I think community is maybe the most important thing to me, and sort of when you're making as a solo maker and you're sort of isolated, seeing people show up for you in a way that kind of is so monumental is something that you sit with and you're like, I didn't even know people knew me. So it was such an important and really touching moment for me because I think out of all the things that I do, I think community is the through line between everything. So right after NCECA, I had set up a huge workshop tour that's actually going to keep going. Just when I think it's over, it's not. But I love doing it. So like I had said, I taught at AMOCA this whole time. So like the bottom corner are one of my bottom right corner. These two students, they've taken every single class I have taught here at AMOCA. They're so sweet. But I had traveled to San Francisco twice. I had, one Redwood City. I never saw Northern California before, and it's so beautiful. I had traveled to Seattle. I had done a lot of local workshops here. So it had just been such like a fun time. I had a monumental like build big workshop here at AMOCA, which was awesome. The things that these students do within like 2 days or 2 or 3 days, it's just insane what you kind of just give them like a nugget, and then they take it and morph it, and then you see yourself in the work, but then you also see like maybe they're also teaching me something. So it's been so great. And we have like a little reconnecting with AMOCA folk. We've got I was able to see some of my friends, uh, and that was just great. It was wonderful. I did two in Seattle, so one was one day, the other was two in, well, Bellingham. So just I think workshops were probably maybe my favorite part of this residency. Like learning, especially my one at AMOCA was just so much fun for me. I love teaching. But yeah, out of everything I've said and done, community like sort of means the most to me. And I'm continually humbled by the people and the friendships that I make. Um, yeah, I think that there hasn't been a time where I've like needed something and somebody hasn't been there, or here at AMOCA kind of restored my faith in community, for sure. And I got a little video for you. We did a lot of silly stuff, me, Max, and Christy. We were always getting up to stuff. But we're also always working our asses off. So I am truly like a work hard, play hard Capricorn. Um, and I couldn't do anything without anyone. So I just want to appreciate those people that have shown up for me this past year. And yeah, I wouldn't want this time to be anything other than a big thank you to the people that have like sort of held me this past year and championed me, and it's been a wonderful time. So now I think I can talk about what I'm doing next. So I'm going to be an artist in residence. I am an artist in residence now at Laguna Clay. My boy Ren, he hooked it up, to be honest, and my beautiful, beautiful friends there. There's me at Fractured Foundations in the middle. And then I'm going to continue teaching, and I'm going to be teaching more workshops. Um, I'm going to be teaching hopefully here. I'm still teaching here at AMOCA, and I'm going to be lecturing at Cal State Long Beach and Cal Poly Pomona. So for me, teaching is the number one thing. That's my favorite thing to do, is sort of like interact, learn, and then um, be able to help other people. I don't think I work best if it's just all about me. It's never been something that has been fulfilling for me. I really feel useful as a human when I'm like giving back or helping or whatever it may be. So I'm very excited that I'll be able to move into those arenas, and sort of it's bittersweet because I would of course love to be an artist in residence here at AMOCA forever, or like there are so many talented artists that can keep moving and moving and moving, but and I will probably move in other ways, but for me, I'm really excited to stick my feet in the ground and get back to teaching, which is what I love to do. So that's really all I have. I think we can open it up to some Q&A. I tried to keep it to like 30 minutes. I think I did 26. But I think we can go back and forth with the if you have questions about things in the screen, we can go back, or whatever it may be. I want to just thank everyone, especially Max, for being my friend and helping me always. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you so much, Bianca. Oh, that was such a lovely talk. That was so great. Thank you. Yeah, we have some time for questions now. So please feel free to either type out your questions in the chat, or you can use your raised hand emoji so we can call on you so you can verbally ask your question. But while you're all doing that or thinking of some questions, it's kind of curious, Bianca. What would you say is your favorite memory of us not working hard, but playing hard? Or not your favorite, but at least something that stands out. That
Oh
doesn't get
gosh.
any of us in trouble.
Oh my God. There are too many. There are too many. No, it's okay. Um, I won't, I won't say all of that, but am I stop sharing screen? Did I stop share?
Yes,
And am I stop sharing?
I think so.
Okay. Um, Forget it. I don't know. I feel like just all of our inside jokes that we've had with each other, me, you, and Christy,
Mhm.
uh, hanging out, dancing, having fun, laughing, car rides, trips, all the fun stuff. And of course, I miss George.
I know.
I
Yeah.
miss George. I miss George all the time. But yeah, I'm just very grateful for, without Laguna, without AMOCA, without Wingate, it wouldn't be possible. So I think, I don't know. I'm just very grateful and I thank them for that opportunity. So,
Awesome.
and you guys.
Likewise. Does anyone have any questions? I would like to raise their hand or type it in the chat.
See if I can see the chat here.
Hmm.
Well, that was lovely. I
Well, another question I had too, I was looking at some of the earlier photos of us, and there's a lot of light in our eyes in the very beginning, and then all of that kind of hit us all at once too. You know, the Insika Emerging Artists, the show here, Compulsion, and everything. I'm wondering what was a challenging time for you
yeah.
that you're able to work through on.
So I feel like too, like as artists, we have so much fun at these residencies and they're so like great for taking us off of life, but especially in a long-term artist residency, like life doesn't stop. So of course there were deaths, there was job losses for family, there were health scares, issues with finances. There were all the things are also happening at that same time as you're wonderful and when you're in this whole like making mode. Uh, so it's sort of like this. And I also come back to AMOCA and the community or just your community. It's like you don't get through those things without leaning on other people. And I feel like that, what would I have done had I not had you guys or the Amoka fam to sort of also just like take me out of some things that were really dark happening. I mean, and then of course you transitioned from my peer to like my handler. So that was fun. You got to boss me around.
Hmm. That's why I took the job. Just kidding.
Um, I think we have a question in the chat.
Yeah, I can read it out too.
Okay.
This one is from Nathan. He asked, can you feel that your work has developed or changed in a way during your residency at AMOCA? And if so, how? Or any piece of important research that has improved, developed, or changed your work?
Um, did I stop sharing my screen, by the way? I'm getting
Yes.
a lot of messages. Okay. I'm getting crazy. Can you feel that your work has developed or changed in any way during your residency at AMOCA? If so, how? Any piece? Oh, yeah. I mean, all the things that I was thinking about in grad school, I got to spend more time on here. So the negative space, I feel like while my forms are always a little bit amorphous and like bubbly and puffy. I sort of now I'm thinking about like what's not there and drawing with negative space or like thinking about like the outline or how we're holding this thing that we can't see. Um, so that has been more exciting for me. I think there's a piece that which piece was it? The what was it? One of my Insika pieces has a lot of negative space in it. And that was sort of like the the one that has started like the new work that I'm doing. And all of my forms, I've used the glazes that I developed in um, grad school, like the center engobe and the layered glaze. But right now I'm also experimenting with inverting the colors. So instead of them being black and sort of like I'm always either going for like a black leather, or like an inky sheen or like slick. those are some things I think about when I'm looking for a surface. But so for these other ones that I want to do, I'm thinking of using my center on gobe just in white and sort of trying to get these nefarious white forms to sort of like have this really beautiful, almost angelic surface. So that's sort of what I've proposed at Laguna to kind of invert the forms and have sort of this kind of lightness, but creepy. Um, so yeah, it, all the AMOCA stuff, they all run together. Like you can't get, I'm like, whenever I'm teaching too, I'm like, you don't get anywhere without doing the other thing first. You just let it flow together. So of course I wouldn't be able to make the new work that I'm making now without any of the AMOCA work. Hope that answers your question, Nathan.
Thank you. And then we also have another question from Erica. It reads, Hi, Bianca. First off, so proud of you, and I love seeing your growth and seeing you accomplish so much and finding what you love to do, which is teaching. My question is if you feel this idea of community has manifested in your work. Also, since your work was mainly California based, if you've ever thought about exploring history in places like your hometown or places on a broader scale. Love you.
Love you.
There we go.
So I think the first, okay, so instead of me thinking about like, so yeah, instead of me thinking about the forms as like individuals and they each mean something, I've started to come back to the work that I did even in undergrad with like my amorphous forms and sort of how they live together as like a set. So like instead of the one form being like one whole, so I've started to Rorschach two forms and they can speak to each other, but they're different components, so they can move around. So, but they're mirrors of each other. So both the forms sort of like you can move them different ways, you can move them around. So it's also like this idea of this individuality, but also working and riffing off of the other. So like these ideas of like how connected are we, and we are really connected, but we don't always go together. So there are different components to this next series where things are bubbled and things are Rorschach, but they're all speaking the same language. So that's kind of interesting to me. As far as like the getting back to like the research and history, I really am working on getting into the Huntington, trying to go through the Octavia Butler archive and see what manifests there. I'm a fan, of course, of her work and the things that she's done, and also this kind of intense foresight that she had reminds me a lot of Elizabeth the Prophet, that I researched in grad school, but also I don't, I think I did what I wanted to do in Buffalo, especially like the home stuff. But I think it's also a relationship between my work, like it is me, like I carry the community within who I am, and sort of just watching you build, Max, and Christy build, and even Yoon, and now even Liz, watching the way that different people make informs the way that I'm also making from here on out. So um, I also am a person that thinks about, like I sort of have to be on like a tear about something to make like a big body, but right now I'm sort of trying to challenge myself to get out the kinks before I move into this is what it's going to be. And I think that's important to give my head a rest a little bit. And some of the subject matters are, of course, they're heavy sometimes because I'm thinking about me, myself, my community, surrounding communities, BIPOC people living in America. Just sometimes I think I have to take a break from that in order so I can keep making and doing the things that I want to do. So I'm kind of looking forward to letting go a little bit in my process. That was long-winded, but
That was good. I appreciate it. It looks like we have Danny Lynn who raised their hand, so I'll go ahead and ask to unmute, and then feel free to ask your question.
Hi, Bianca. It's Danny. This was such a good presentation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I had a question for you about like how you balance research with making, with work and all of that, because I know it takes so much time to thoughtfully research everything. So can you talk about how you balance everything?
Um, so I think that there's like a big stigma around research in general for like us as ceramic artists, and like maybe there's this sort of idea that it's not approachable. And that's actually something I think about when in my teaching, and like I have a assignment called Accessible Archive. So thinking about just starting and just looking at it, or just beginning to go back to these like third public places, understanding how you can get in, understanding, yes, thoughtfully researching and always respecting, understanding the difference between exploitation and honoring something. It's a big difference. So I think when I balance, what I try to do is go in there with um, a set of morals and values that I hold, but also thinking about like what I'm seeing and what that means to me. Because instead of the work being didactic, a one for one, this is what it is. I think abstraction lends its hand to me because actually there are so many gaps missing in history itself, but also even in our own memory. So then there's this sort of uh I don't know, not mercurial, but there's this sort of like thing that happens in our own memories where we're not reliable narrators either. So like what is that? So that's like the thing that I feel like I'm trying to get at in like a form. So I'm of course researching, informing myself, but also thinking about what does that mean? And what does that look like as a form? So it helps to have the actual archive in front of me and working off that. And then I think that leads into Nikki's question, which would be, tell us more about what you keep referring to as Rorschaching. Do these histories of psychology fold into your practice beyond the formal mirroring? Sure. I mean, okay, so I think, I kind of skid through this, but I talked a lot about it in the first artist talk that I had made and at NCCA, sort of the idea of mirroring the archive itself, administering the test to myself, and then thinking about what that form means to me. So there is, to me, so much that happens internally, thinking about what that does to a person's psyche. Like, for instance, the one of the pieces that I have just made for Fractured Foundations, Counted, is about the 1930s US Census. So that census was actually a time when mixed race identities was redacted from the census itself in 1930. So prior to that, there had been a place to put on the census multiple places, like multiple people. So mulatto, quadroon, there were all different races represented. So when they had taken that away, I think about that absence sort of as a reframing in society that we can't necessarily see. So I'm thinking about what would have happened if all those identities, obviously, we would change the political language, of course, but were represented since the beginning, right? What would have happened if everybody had been represented this whole entire time? Because it wasn't until I think 1999 when other was added back to the census form. So I think, of course, these things that we have thought about in history, they're not always things you can solidify, but it's like an invisible structure that is I'm sort of thinking about formally, like what does that structure also mean? So for me, oh, I also forgot to add that I became the community arts rep for the Critical Mixed Race Studies Association. So for me, having these conversations in these places, um, and with these people, and how are we approaching it in academia is really important. Like that can happen outside of the form, outside of the object, which again, we loop back in community again. So I think in ceramics, we're obsessed with the object, but what happens when the aura of the object ripples out? And what pattern is that? So thinking about patterns that you necessarily can't see is something I'm interested in, but they're always me and they're always the history. So it's always this conversation between those two things.
Awesome, thank you. I did have one question for you, Bianca. I was thinking about, and let's say tomorrow you wake up and suddenly it's August 2025 again, and you just started your residency here at AMOCA. Is there anything that you would do differently?
I wouldn't do the markets and I wouldn't get a job, although I needed the job.
Yeah.
But I would not, I think I would just take less off my plate. I think if there was something I learned this year is because I actually started to get pretty sick toward the end of this, like these past couple months has been my body sort of like really mad at me. And I think I have to learn how to take care of myself because I think I'm very much go, 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 strive, 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 work hard. I like, I'm a Capricorn, so I love that. I love working hard. I think also, which is exciting to me is when I have my friends who are working hard and they're achieving what they want to achieve. Nothing makes me like more happy than that. So I think that I've learned that sometimes taking stuff off of your plate, you really have to, or your body's going to do it for you. And I have to get into a system where I'm not motivated by lack.
Yeah.
But it's hard when of course you have student loan bills and things coming at you. So then your first reaction is to act. So instead of maybe going right into work mode, um, yeah, I have to learn to slow down.
I think that's really helpful for a lot of us, including me, to hear too, because I think we think that you just need to hit the ground running and give your 110% always. So that's helpful. Thank you. We do have another question in the chat. The question is, how do you know when you're ready to approach work or a series after so much research? And then parentheses, so that you're just short of a PhD in history, sociology, or anthropology.
It's like the same thing. I feel like it's the same thing. It's like, well, how do you know when a piece is done? That's the same question. It's like something so internal. Like I know when I like if I'm researching something, like for instance, the mirror piece. I've been thinking about that since concept since grad school, and Erica will tell you that. I've been talking about the 1930 census for a long time. So a lot of the things are like in the background, and then when a like moment strikes, of course, they put out the call for fractured foundations, and I'm like, boy, do I have a fracture to foundation or a foundation to fracture. Yeah. But I think how do I know when I'm ready to approach a work, a series? I think not when I have like a introduction, a body, and a conclusion, but when my body physically is moving. It's just and maybe there is so much work that I don't show people that no one sees. Like if I go back in the slideshow, I had to omit like 3 pieces from the Ansika show because it was just too much. So I sort of think that's where curation comes in handy, and like what also is the form saying, is it doing what I wanted to do? And I think sometimes yes, sometimes no, and sometimes that's okay. And I think you just keep making and you just keep learning. And I think being curious is the most important thing you could do. The second you stop being curious and you put a definite, this is what it is, I think that's the end of learning, right? So I feel like I'm still learning. I don't know everything, and I'm excited to keep sort of pushing myself to challenge my own like understanding of what this like life experience is.
Great. Um, I do have one more question and then we can start to wrap it up unless anyone else has any. But one of your biggest goals is to go into teaching. So when you are inevitably a tenure track professor at wherever you want to be, what kind of teacher do you want to be for your students?
Oh, I think I've been blessed with a lot of great people and educators around me. Like my so I'm probably a mix of all of them. Support, but also I love I love to be pushed. So I hope that I can support and challenge in like a helpful, non-toxic way. Um, I think that it's important that the students that I do help understand their context. I think context is almost everything. Understanding who you are, who you're making for. And by the way, those things could also be um, defined by you, you know? So I think an educator who supports the student completely and getting closer to whatever it is that they are wanting to do. So sort of a champion. And I think the more selfless I am in giving to the students, usually the better my work also becomes. So yeah, I just hope that that relationship is built like in a good community and with a program that's ready to sort of like just hit the ground running, and maybe they've already been hitting the ground running, but I'm also like I'm very excited like for the idea of community colleges. Like I started at a community college. I don't believe that there's hierarchical education spaces. So just feeling like whenever that happens, because I think we need things to change in academia a little bit because we're seeing a lot of obviously cuts and things happening. So I think it's important that we're continually thinking about who we are and not just the celebrity maker in that role, more so like who are these students? It's more about them. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Bianca. I appreciate it. I think now is a good time to wrap up. So thank you all for joining us and for your excellent questions. For more of Bianca MacPherson's work, visit her website, biancamacpherson.com. Um, and then if you're in the neighborhood, come visit the museum and ceramic studio in Pomona, California. You can learn more about AMOCA, our ceramic studio and artist in residence program, and our current exhibitions at our website, www.amoca.org. A recording of this presentation will be available on AMOCA's website in the coming weeks. So thank you again, and we will see you soon.